Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And today we're going to talk about mental ruts. We've all been there, right? Remember, I was talking just a few weeks ago, actually right at a month ago, about being in this kind of a rut. Although for me it was more a mental rut caused from a physical thing where I was, if you have not listened to the shows or missed a couple of episodes or don't recall, I was dealing with what I believe to be some tendinitis in my left ankle. And so I wound up just not doing any physical activity for about a week and a half, and it wound up, it was not good. Especially because over the last several years, I've become accustomed to doing physical things on pretty much a daily basis. If I'm not going to the gym, then I'm running or doing yoga or both. And while I was trying to allow my ankle to wind up healing and recovering, I did none of that. And, was not in a good mental place for a couple of weeks. So, let's talk about these mental ruts. Article from archetypes.com says, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Sometimes you find yourself in a rut. It might be a mental roadblock for something you're working on by yourself, or it could be an organizational bottleneck that has turned everything upside down, and now your team is questioning just about every little thing, whether the challenge is crafting an appropriate email response or is something as big as a career change. These 12 action steps, they say will help you, I say can help you to jumpstart a creative process. Number 1, pause. The author says, my mom used to tell me when you don't know what to do, don't do anything. Sound advice. It asserts that you're part of a broader ecosystem and that multiple factors and actors are in motion that can have some sort of cascading effect on you. There's a huge value in pausing, waiting, and taking a day or two to revisit something that has been on your mind. Now, at some point, no action is, it's not an action, but no decision becomes a decision. Right, so let's say that, I don't know, currently it's Monday. So let's say that I invite you to go to an event on Wednesday. Well, right now you don't really know. Maybe, it's up in the air. You might go, you might not go, you might be able to. You're not entirely positive. So you take the pause advice here and you say, I'll get back to you. Wednesday rolls around. If you've not made a decision, then that is a decision. The lack of a decision is a decision not to act. So pausing, while it can be good, just wind up keeping in mind that you have to at some point make a follow-up action, which leads into number 2, which is move. Now, they wind up using this in the literal sense of go for a walk, go for a swim, go out dancing. These things can have a miraculous effect on revigorating your neural pathways. In part, it's because you have allowed your focus to wander off elsewhere. The other part is biological. Exercise has the psychological effect of releasing endorphins in our system, which reduces stress, makes us happier, and makes us more alert. Now, again, I'm using the move in a figurative sense because you pause and then you think about whether or not to make a decision, and then you have to make a decision, sort of like a chess game, where you can't just sit there thinking about your move indefinitely until the other person gets up and has to go to the bathroom, and then you declare a forfeit. So you actually need to do something. And I realize that there are times when you don't feel like doing anything. I've been there. But when you don't feel like doing anything is the time that you really need to go do something. Number 3 on the list, again, of 12 ways to get out of a mental rut. They say doodle. Yeah, doodle. Pick up just a piece of paper and some sort of writing utensil. Can be a crayon, can be a pen, can be a pencil, can be a Sharpie, whatever. Doodling, they say, is a type of yoga for the brain. The great part is that we can all be good at it. After all, there's not such a thing as a bad doodle. Doodling elevates focus and concentration, and because it engages associative thinking instead of linear thinking, you will be amazed at what new ideas occur to you after engaging in a bit of a doodle. You may emerge having felt as if you had just meditated. Number 4 on the list here, talk to a trusted advisor. And yes, I realize not everyone has someone that they would consider to be a trusted advisor. But the author here continues, says, get the issue you are stuck on out of your head and talk about it. Saying your ideas out loud and hearing it, or rather hearing how it sounds to someone who you trust and will tell you the truth, is golden. Number 5, they say go on a listening tour. This is a variation of number 4. Instead of doing all the talking, you shut up, show up with your eyes and ears wide open, identify a range of people whom you admire and respect, and get their perspective on the idea. You will begin to pick up on patterns of feedback. Stay tuned. There are more things on the list of ways to get out of a mental rut. Stay tuned. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
In 1999, Darryl W. Perry began a search for traditional values, which led him down a path to the ideas of liberty. He tells the story in A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty. Of the book, Dr. Brian Sovereign says, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes I think it's crazy, but it's always authentic. Ask for A Rebel's Journey wherever books are sold, or visit arebelsjourney.com. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system and to fully capitalize on that decision in their fundraising efforts. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
Hey, this is Adam from the ANCAP Barbershop. You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. We'll get back into the article here in just a moment, but I've got a question for you. Are you an advocate of free market money? Do you use Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies as an alternative in this fiat-centric world? Then you need Spendabit in your arsenal. Spendabit is a search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Spendabit has aggregated millions of products, well over 3 million products, from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. And these are all things that you can buy, again, with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin accepting merchant like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. That's spend a bit, all one word, spendabit.fppradio.com. And so we're talking about ways to get out of a mental rut. Again, the article here lists 12 things. Recapping, number 1 is to pause. Just take a moment and reflect before making a decision or taking an action. Number 2 is move. Like literally go for a walk, go for a swim, go dance, do something to get your body in motion, because doing so releases endorphins, which reduces stress. It makes you happier, makes you more alert. And because you're not necessarily focusing on whatever it is that you're thinking about, you might wind up coming up with some ideas. Number 3, they say doodle. Just like, sit down and doodle. I know that adult coloring books are apparently becoming a popular thing, or have become a popular thing over the last couple of years. Number 4, they suggest talking to a trusted advisor. Number 5 is the opposite, to where you listen. You find people that you trust, people that you admire, and you just listen to their ideas instead of you giving yours and asking for feedback. Number 6, they say get out of your league. The author says, I mean this in 2 ways. First, in the vertical direction. Get out of your league by gaining perspective on the challenges from someone much more senior to you. Secondly, in the horizontal direction, identify someone from another sector who would ask the naive questions about the issue that is causing you to break out in a nervous sweat. Thinking in questions can open a world of perspective. And then they link over to a website, a more beautiful question.com, that I have not gone to, I've not taken a look at, but maybe it has some advice on how to think in questions. And I realize that might sound kind of strange, but most of the time when you have these stream of consciousness sort of things, you're not necessarily asking yourself a series of questions. You're presenting yourself just a series of statements, if that makes any sense. Number 7, they say make a list. The author says, I love lists. To-do lists give me a small sense of accomplishment when I can check things off as completed. Now, I have to wonder about the people that love to-do lists. If they write on their to-do list, write to-do list, and then if they have finished to-do list as an item on the to-do list, so that they have 2 things that they can easily check off after they wind up writing and then finishing their to-do list. But I digress and continue. The author says, try making a binary list. Draw a line in the middle of a piece of paper and list the pros and the cons of acting in one direction or another. Or what you like versus what you dislike about a situation. Seeing the situation deconstructed on paper into parts will help you make better sense of the whole. Meaning that when you look at the parts, you can then finally understand the entire thing that you're looking at. Number 8, they say enter someone else's world. And by this, no, don't just, put yourself in somebody else's shoes in that situation. They mean actually, visit another place. Go to a museum. Go to an art gallery. Stare off into space and imagine the situation displayed before you. Stop focusing on yourself. Marinate your eyes and your brain in visual data, and then later revisit the challenge at hand with a fresh perspective. So basically, you wind up looking at the situation instead of from the inside, from the outside looking in. And I realize that can be very difficult to do, especially depending on what the situation is. Number 9, they say get lost. This can be done on foot or in a car. The point is that by wondering, we relinquish control and call on our capacity for problem solving in an entirely new context. This can be very helpful as a way to do number 1 and number 2, to pause and to move. So you're, putting yourself physically in a different location and in a location that you are not necessarily familiar with. So just, all right, I'm going to go out of my driveway and turn left. And then just keep driving. Oh, I need to make another turn. All right, flip a coin. And then, heads is right, tails is left. And then just keep going. And then whenever you need to stop to fill up for gas, then I guess stop and then try to figure out where you are maybe. I'm not really sure. They don't necessarily say, like how to wind up realizing when you're lost. But again, that does wind up, relinquishing some control and will then cause you to problem solve in a completely different way. 3 more things on the list here of 12 tips on how to get out of a mental rut. We'll go over those in just a moment here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
This is Darryl W. Perry, host of Free Talk Live. This November, I'll be running in the world's biggest and most popular marathon, the New York City Marathon, and I've accepted a spot on Team Innocence Project because I'm a passionate supporter of their work. Since 1989, 353 people in the United States have been exonerated by DNA testing, including 38 who pled guilty to crimes they did not commit, and 20 of whom served time on death row. The Innocence Project provided direct representation or critical assistance in 180 of these cases. With your help, the Innocence Project can help even more people who have been wrongly convicted. As part of Team Innocence Project, I am raising awareness about wrongful convictions and raising funds to help free the innocent. I've already paid the race registration fees. However, to secure my spot on Team Innocence Project in the New York City Marathon, I need to raise $3,500 by November 1st. You can support the Innocence Project and help me secure my race entry by going to run.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And we'll get back into the article here in just a moment, but I want to make sure that I tell you about Zencash. Zencash is an end-to-end encrypted system with zero-knowledge technologies over which communications, data, or value can be securely transmitted and stored. With over 8,500 secure nodes, and I've actually heard that the number is now closer to 9,000, if not over 9,000, Zencash has one of the most distributed secure node systems of any cryptocurrency. Zencash is a platform for cryptocurrency and communications built by voluntarists for voluntarists, with the ideas of interaction being written into the white paper no less than half a dozen times. And the Zencash wallet is available for Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices, and it's available in multiple languages, not just English. Learn more at zencash.com. That's zencash.com. Now, jumping back into the article here from archetypes.com, and yes, as always, the link will be in the show notes where you can read it at your leisure, assuming you want to read it. I know some people, sometimes, hey, what was that thing? I know when I'm listening to various podcasts, I'll often, not always, But oftentimes, if there was something of particular interest, I will, go find the link and then read the article for myself instead of going back to re-listen to the podcast. And then I can actually, here's the entirety of the article without all of the excess commentary. So let's recap here. The first, we're on number 9, just finished number 9, first 9 of 12 pieces of advice here for how to get out of a mental rut. They say number 1 is to pause. Just don't do anything for a couple of days. Now, I realize sometimes you might not have the courtesy of having a couple of days where you can't do anything on a particular action, but, just pause for some amount of time. Number 2 is to move. Go for a walk, go for a swim, go out dancing, something to get your mind off of the situation that has you sort of, in that mental rut to where you're not really sure what to do. Number 3, you could also doodle, because that lines up, taking your focus off of something. And then I forget what the scientific term is, or, there's some concept of when you stop focusing on a thing, it winds up helping you think more clearly. And that's why oftentimes you hear people say, I had this brilliant idea when I was in the shower. I had this brilliant idea, when I was doing this leisure thing, whatever, wasn't thinking about fill in the blank, but then I just had the idea just came to me. Yeah, so it's when you're not focusing that you're able to come up with these things. Number 4, they say talk to a trusted advisor. Number 5 is the opposite. Go on a listening tour to where you just get feedback, but you're not necessarily doing the talking. Number 6, they say get out of your league, and then they wind up explaining that a little bit more. Number 7, they say make a list. Number 8 is to enter someone else's world. By that, they mean go to a museum, an art gallery, etc., and then try to look at the situation from the outside looking in instead of from the inside. Number 9, get lost. Literally, the point is to just go off somewhere, and then by wandering around, you relinquish control, and then it calls on your capacity to problem solve in a completely new context. Doing so also allows you to pause and to move. Number 1 and number 2. Number 10 on the list, they say go see a movie. Preferably see the movie by yourself, and to up the ante, watch a genre you don't generally watch. They say rom-com if you're an action flick type, and sci-fi if instead if your typical attraction is political thrillers. Foreign films are the ultimate wonderful distraction in order to engage later with renewed perspective. Number 11 on the list, and this is one that I used to get in trouble for doing all the time when I was in school. Dad, if you're listening, you know exactly what this is. Yeah, daydreaming. They say go outside, sit on the stoop or a park bench, stare at passing clouds or at trees. What I like to do when it's a little bit warmer is lay in a hammock, because, yes, I bought myself a hammock last year so that I could wind up, trying to relax. Oh, well, you know what? If I'm laying in a hammock, then I'm not screwing around on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, so go get away from electric devices and daydream. The author here says trains are also great for daydreaming out of the window. And by that, they mean actually being in a train, not going somewhere and watching trains. If you're finding this tip too open-ended, then time yourself. 5-minute daydream will do wonders for your day. And somewhat related here to daydreaming is time travel. No, they don't mean go find the DeLorean with the flux capacitor and then drive 88.8 miles per hour until you generate 1.21 gigawatts of electricity. Instead, they mean visualize yourself in the future having made decision A and then ask yourself, how do I feel about this scenario? And then after you've time traveled down scenario A lane for a little bit, you reflect. on decision B, and then I'll tell you what else after we time travel here in just a second.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com. Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to the future, or something. Here in the closing moments of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, we're talking about time travel as a way to get out of a mental rut. Again, no, we're not talking about actually traveling through time. We're talking about imagining ourselves having traveled into the future through time. Again, list here of 12 ways to get out of a mental rut. Number 12 on the list is visualize yourself in the future having made decision A, and then asking, how do I feel about this scenario? Next, visualize yourself having made alternative decision B. Again, ask yourself, how do I feel about this choice? The author says this is a form of visualization. It's really important in this exercise to pay attention how you are feeling and, for the moment, leave logic behind. Now, generally, when I time travel and think about different scenarios, it's always traveling into the past of how would things turn out if I would have done X? How would things have turned out if I would have done Y? How would things have turned out if I would have done Z? And have you ever noticed, and yes, this is definitely a tangent, have you ever noticed that in various problems where people give letters for things, they either start with ABC or they start with XYZ? Nobody ever starts with like Q or L or K. Why is that? I really have no clue. And again, it's just things that I happen to think of at various random times. The article here concludes, we're guaranteed to revisit moments of being at a loss about what to do. So practice these tips and it will ensure that you will be able to better navigate those times of ambiguity. Again, the link will be in the show notes. You can read it at your leisure if you so choose. And don't forget, every Friday, I answer your questions. And yes, you can remain completely anonymous when you send questions. How can you do that? Well, you go to the website, ama.fppradio.com. And yes, it asks for a name. It doesn't have to be your name, doesn't even have to be a human's name. You could wind up putting Jazzy the Studio Dog. And then it asks for an email address. Again, doesn't have to be yours, doesn't have to be real. Because I'm not going to just send you random emails. So just put something that resembles an email in that thing, and then put a question that I can actually comprehend in the form where it asks for a question. And I answer those every Friday. And yes, you can ask me anything. That means anything. ama.fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.